Love and longing. "Oh, no, no, no. Out, out, out. You brought the kill, you don't cook it. Out, out, out," the chef protests, and Vernon is forced from the cooking tent to Miro Noir's amusement. He takes a moment to adjust his vest and walks up to her. "Did you even get a chance to request that some be set aside for you to spice yourself?" she asks. "Not at all. I got 2 steps in and then chased out," Vernon remarked. Though things did look like they were proceeding apace, everything should be ready soon. Excellent. Most of the community probably skipped lunch like we did. A Leviathan is a rare treat, she notes calmly as she takes him by the arm. Most girls are going to be plenty hungry, so a touch more irrational. Still, with me holding you fast, there won't be any silliness. Let's hope an impromptu tournament doesn't kick off. There are far too many romantic stories that involve some third party beating up some poor apuk and stealing the husband until she trains up and wins him back. "Don't think I can win you back?" Miro Noir teases, and he gives her a somewhat offended look, as if the idea of him doubting her was somehow more offensive to him than to her. It took some effort to bite down on the amusement that mental image conjured. "I don't like the idea that some crazy floozy would try to beat you up over me. I know you're a warrior, but that doesn't mean I like the idea of you being hurt," Vernon says, and she titters at the idea. Such a goof. She chides him with a giggle. She managed to get out of the pants and had traded for a stitched-together patchwork dress. Apparently, village or town festivals were expected to dress down somewhat and stay in that level. Only her crown was any hint she was a battle princess. He himself was in a vest and pants of the same type with a t-shirt underneath. The vest was quite scratchy. "Get out of my cooking tent, you little monsters!" The chef screams out, and both of them turn in time to see a trinity of apuk girls racing out of the tent with squeals of laughter as they carry well-charred bits of meat. The chef stands there with her hands on her hips before smiling even as Miro Noir dissolves into giggles. "Why do I get the feeling that she wasn't quite so upset?" Vernon asks curiously. "The scrapings. The last bits that curl off the bones as they're being burnt for soup broth. They're scraped off and put in a bowl. They're for the children, but they can't always wait. Everyone does it at least once when they're small. Run the kitchen, grab a handful of scrapings, and race out before the head chef can catch you." Ah, little traditions like that. Like getting a glass of wine around holidays or turkey on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Speaking of, I'm not sure I fully understand this turkey meat you've mentioned before. The idea of some kind of natural poison in the beast even after being cooked, which puts you to sleep, is bizarre. Tryptophan. It's completely harmless. You'd have to devour obscene and impractical amounts all in one sitting to actually hurt yourself. But it's used in several powerful anesthetics. In concentrated forms, yes, but the amount in a whole turkey is maybe a quarter dose at most. I suppose. Still, what kind of creature is a turkey? You said it's some kind of bird, but is it predatory prey? Does it move in flocks or— "You!" an upset voice declares. "It is them!" A pair of familiar faces rush in and skid to a stop before them. It's Leviathan and Terryfoos. "You two need to knock it off, you're making us look bad. Worse actually for the girl you took out first." Terryfoos chides him and he scoffs. "I'm sorry. We'll try to have our time together interrupted by some other kind of stupid hostile creature. Perhaps a star monster? Or maybe a small army?" Miro Noir asks, and Vernon chuckles. "You do that, though you might want to keep your sorcerer under wraps a bit more. If you weren't a battle princess, he'd already have been dragged off to a dozen different beds," Leviathan says with a chuckle. "And would yours be one of them?" Miro Noir asks, stepping between Vernon and the 2 other apuk. "Princess, there's not a single unmarried apuk that wouldn't jump on the chance. You made it clear you'd only take other battle princesses into consideration, and that's fair. But you should know that about half the planet is going to be involved in the next tournament, if not a considerable percentage of our species. Leviathan answers, and Noir gives them both a bit of a glare, and they lean back somewhat. Noir leans back with a smug grin. So long as you two keep your hands to yourself, I have no issue with either of you. You both nearly earned the rank of princess after all, and I encourage you both to keep training. And hope you don't run up against the likes of my husband again. He's a bit much to take in a fight. Yes, well, no doubt he's the only human of his capacity. You got the diamond of the race. Lucky. Why is your smile nearly splitting your face? Terryfoos asks. I'm one of the better ones, but there are 100 dedicated Axiom researchers, of which I'm only one of many. If you're looking for more technical and tricky abilities, yes, I'm an excellent candidate. But Franklin in the EFL has the raw power to flatten me in seconds. We've got Amadi who could have me chasing my own shadows for hours. Lore's an expert at making wildly varying Axiom totems. The list keeps going. And what you saw in the tournament? That was something that was the result of all of us putting our heads together. I was just the guy showing it all off. Vernon, while smug rarely looks good, you're allowed to be proud of your accomplishments. You're the only sorcerer among your race after all. Noir chides him. Maybe, but that won't last. Even now, volunteers are being screened to bring in more. Really? Terryfoos asks excitedly. Really, they, and I for that matter, are getting some extra training to go through with my hidden village idea, Vernon remarks before smirking. After the honeymoon, though, I'm still on break. Hidden? Leviathan begins as Noir puts a finger to her lips. I think we've said too much already. Needless to say, even though it's going to be quite the high barrier of entry to be with my husband, there are other human sorcerers soon on Cerbo, Noir says before reaching out and grabbing both women around the mouths. Keep quiet about it, all right? It's not a secret, but I'd personally like it to be a nice surprise. And you had to ruin it for us. How could you? Terryfoos teases. You could choose to forget it then. Besides, it's not like being ready for something ahead of time helps you prepare to take advantage of a situation and, oh wait, Vernon says, and both Terryfoos and Leviathan give each other excited looks. When Leviathan begins and gets a disappointed look from Vernon. Right, shh. Have fun at the festival. Come on, Terry, we need to start planning. The two of them rush out already deep in conspiracy as Noir crosses her arms with a smug look on her face. Two down, she mutters to herself. What was that? Vernon asks, having already deduced that she wants the other finalists in the tournament focused elsewhere. Why? He doesn't know. Maybe she thinks she'll have to chase them off in a few months after the next tournament. Maybe she just really likes tying up loose ends. Either way, it's harmless. So how much longer do you think they'll be cooking the beast for? I'm ravenous, and I doubt I'm the only one. Vernon asks, and there's a slight rumbling sound from Noir. Case in point. Not too much longer. If the children are grabbing the scrapings, then it's nearly finished. On the extreme outside, then it's another hour, at most. Noir answers, and Vernon nods in appreciation. Makes sense to me, so we should probably find. He trails off as a large flaming hoop comes spinning by. Two children on the top running backwards and another two in the bottom as a small crowd pushing it along travels behind. That's a level of playing with fire I've never seen before. It's just mundane flame. By the time a little girl's 3, she's got nothing to fear from so cool a war fire, let alone a natural one, Noir assures him. The look on your face is so baffled, it's adorable. Sorry, it's just, wow, Vernon remarks. Culture clash. I've seen it quite a bit. You haven't been with us long. I've seen Canadors play martial games, shooting at one another with fully charged plasma bolts. Pavarists play fights so hard that the environment around them is shredded in minutes at most. I've seen Gobi kart races, those Little maniacs put rocket engines on cobbled-together scrap with wheels and somehow don't kill themselves. Surely humans have fun little competitions as well. We do it it doesn't seem as dangerous to us. Camping out at night in the woods, contests as to who can eat the spiciest things. Mexicans and Indians keep winning those. Baseball with sticks and rocks. Play fighting with sticks and rocks. Actually, now that I think about it, that probably sounds dangerous to you with how much poison a human can process. Vernon realizes. Just as how that romping role those girls were playing looked dangerous to you, I can imagine you getting into a competition on who can eat the spiciest though. What happens? It's simple enough. Take a big bowl of baseline food like a chili or something. Take a pitcher of milk and pour it into 2 glasses. The competitors each take a bite of the food after some spice is added. Then slowly add more and more spice to the food until one side or the other gives up by drinking the milk and nullifying the spices. Sometimes you skip the basic food and see who can eat the most of something naturally spicy like hot peppers, Vernon explains. As dangerous to an apook as running in or on a flaming barrel is to a human. It's one of the first things I learned out in the galaxy. Everyone's got some kind of advantage that took their race right to the top. Intelligence is one of them, but back when we were all animals, there was something that let them live long enough to grow wise. Miro Noir muses as she remembers going from world to world without much direction. So much time spent trying to become a battle princess, but not much of a plan for afterwards. Such as incredible beauty, Vernon remarks as he gently holds Miro Noir and gives her a kiss. "Oh, you," she says, before kissing him back, and they hold each other tightly for a few moments, only to be interrupted by a ringing bell. "Is that what I think it is?" Vernon asks. "If you're thinking dinner, then it is indeed. Let's find our seats. We're to be at the front along with the master chefs for bringing in the kill." Miro Noir explains and begins leading Vernon towards the cooking tents. "Best not leave the people waiting. There may be a riot on our hands if we do." Vernon jokes and Miro Noir giggles somewhat. "There you two are. Come, come, come. It's time to begin," the chef exclaims as they rush past the cooking tent and towards the rows of tables. "Your seats are here. Now I understand this is the first time for your human husband? First time for any human at all. This kind of creature has never... No, I suppose whales are somewhat similar. Granted, those gentle giants are best just left alone. I've never eaten anything like this." "Yes, you have," Miro Noir corrects him. "I have. You remember the crunchy bits in the salad you ate during the tournament?" "Yes, I said it was like bacon. Those were scrapings, all from animals like this." "Ooh, a pork feast. Wait. Roasted boar, folksy outfits, princesses, sorcerers. I'm in a twisted fantasy novel." "You just noticed?" Miro Noir asks with a very amused tone. "I was a little busy just being with you, my dear." "How is that anything but a fantasy come to life?" She sighs in appreciation. "All right, enough you two. No need to make me jealous. You two made the kill, so you two get the first serving," the head chef says, and then sets down a pair of platters down. "Now, as this is your first time to one of these, Sir Sorcerer, I'll be quickly explaining what's what." "Please and thank you," Vernon says. "We start with this bowl here on the edge. This is the burnt marrow broth, and it has a hefty portion of Leviathan tendon. It's very tough normally, but the broth loosens it up and it falls apart from a corded rope into multiple noodles. Save it long enough, and you can easily slurp it down. It's very smooth and tasty, and the two flavors complement each other immensely." She then points to a series of sliced pieces of round meat. "This is a typical shank slow roasted over the last 3 hours and melt in your mouth." "These biscuits?" Vernon asks, gesturing to the small-looking circles. "Palate cleansers. They're warm and buttery, and the taste fades quickly. Now next up are these thin slices. These are from the more rubbery tentacles and usually have a hard time tearing through with your teeth, but have been tenderized and slice thin after being slow roasted. "Oh, come on, we're hungry." A young voice echoes out from further down, and Vernon chuckles. "I can figure things out. Best make sure they don't start a riot." He bids her, and the chef huffs, but there's a clear smile. "Fine, I'll leave it to your wife to explain the rest."